So what are the three main parameters of OCT? That is the fourth law of interference, i.e. the larger the spectrum, delta lambda, the smaller, the shorter the coherence length, okay? So the wider delta lambda, the shorter the coherence length. Now, if the first one will explain the axial resolution, the second one is a parameter which is quite deficient for us. Why? Because OCT is based on interference. To achieve interference, you need those stable phase relations, which are practically the third law of interference, constant phase relation. Now, you send photons into the tissue, and the tissue scatters those photons. As you go deeper and deeper, there will be less and less photons carrying the same phase information as the initial phase. So there will be less and less photons. Because of that, the strength of interference will be less and less as you collect light. You move the coherence gate deeper and deeper. So by going deeper and deeper, you will have less number of photons carrying similar phase relation. And because of that, the penetration depth is short. So in skin is about 1.5 millimeter, in dentin is below 700 microns. So because we need photons carrying the phase information, we play with single scattered photons. If the photons are scattered more than once, the phase is crumbled. You cannot achieve interference. And that is a fantastic effect. The fact that that parameter, which multiplies the fringe, is given by the product of these two. So you have a weak signal, very, very weak, coming from retina skin, and you multiply it with a very strong signal coming from the reference mirror. So you have this effect of amplification. And you can practically quantify that. Take a confocal microscope for skin, add the reference beam and transform it into an OCT, and see which is the penetration depth. You don't need to do this experiment. You take the data sheet of lucid confocal microscope, you can Google it, and you'll see that at 800 nanometers, the penetration depth from skin is 350 microns. This is the data sheet. Put a reference mirror, transform it into an OCT, look at OCTs at 800 nanometers, you'll see more than 1 something millimeters. So there is a factor there of larger than 4 or 5, only because you have this. Okay. And there is something else, it's not only this factor, it's the coherence gate, which eliminates more of the multiple scattered photons and so on. Terminology of scanning. We've been through this. A scan, reflecting the profiling depth. You put several along the depths and you obtain a B scan. And if you put now several T scans, okay, you obtain a constant depth image, like in the TV raster. Okay. Professor Leahy yesterday had a more complex diagram than this one. I'm showing here what the OCT is in between confocal microscopy and ultrasound. Cannot give centimeters in terms of penetration depths, okay, like the ultrasound. Cannot give micron in terms of axial resolution like the confocal. But with the recent progress in very broadband optical sources, now OCT competes with confocal microscopy, because now microns and sub-micron axial resolution becomes achievable. Now, more about our work, results, what we can do is OCT. So for instance, this is a slide showing the old and the new technology. You have here, we devised a system which can do both technologies in one. We call that OCT SLO system. So at the same time, the system can display an unphased, a constant depth, a C-scan image, as well as an SLO image. So for instance, for retinal pigment epithelium detachment, that's the way the image will look with the old technology, that's the way it will look with our new technology. And if you do a cross-section, so here you have lateral, this lateral is equal with this, and this is depth now. You see when I cross this, I have this. And so there is an for all these colleagues in New York Eye Infirmary associated with these diseases, these patterns. For instance, here will be an epiretinal membrane case. You may not be able to see here these streaks. There are tiny, thin streaks, radial streaks here, which are missed in the B scan here. The B scan here, if you do a B scan here, you may miss these streaks, which are very thin. But you cannot miss them if you look on face. So that's the value of looking on face, so you can recognize patterns. Cornea, you have the eye lens here, more resolution of cornea. Here is a zoom B scan cross section. So let's go. I'll bounce all the time. The mass, principles, results. I haven't concentrated. Initially, I had everything about technology concentrated in one part. But you will see again. I'll come back to the technology as I go through. So let's go back to basics. So what do you need to make an OCT? What do you need? You need an interferometer, which is shown here. Plate, the splitter, a reference mirror, and some interface optics. And somewhere here we put a scanner, let's say. A pinhole to remove the off-axis rays, okay? And a broadband source. So this is a time domain. So the microscope, this microscope will be somewhere here as an interface optics. Okay? In principle, that's what these are the ingredients of an OCT. Okay? Now, that is the time domain. That's the way technology started. If you remove the broadband source with this source, you are now in this direction, which is the modern technology, and that's the way the technology progresses now. Instead of having 50 nanometers, 100 nanometers bandwidth, you take a very narrow band laser and you tune it. And this is the swept source. Fine. So nothing has changed here, apart from the fact that if you tune this fast, you need a photodetector here to be fast. And now this, because the progress is so fantastic in the last 5 years, this photodetection unit now is now in the gigahertz range. Gigahertz. OCT developers now work with microwave, producing images fast. The other technology is this one. Broadband source back, but instead of the photodetector, we use a spectrometer. So what this technology with the spectrometer, or the other one with the swept source, does practically, what we have here, this is the interference at the interferometer output. So what the spectrometer does, will interrogate, will look at the spectrum coming out of the interferometer. So these two principles with the spectrometer, or is the tunable laser, what they do, they look at the spectrum, the modulation in the spectrum. And I'll come back to that to tell you more about the modulation, what that modulation is. More here about the modern technology. So camera-based, a broadband source, bit splitter, reference, sample, simple, very simple optics. More and more the sophistication and more work is required on the electronics and processing of the image, and less work is done on the optics, apart from the optical source. So here we have the interference of those two beams, and that spectrum has a modulation, and we call that modulation channel, and I'll come back to it. So now with the spectrometer, we see here the modulation. You can see the modulation of the spectrum by doing this principle, or you have a laser, and you tune the laser under the spectrum. So I would like you to make the difference that the main difference between the time domain and these two other technologies, which are the modern one, are the fact that in time domain, as I have shown you with those wave trains, you get signal as long as you make those optical paths equal. If you are outside of this matching, you get nothing. So it's only one point. And at any point where you get signal, the optical path difference is zero, i.e. the time domain delivers a single point of optical path difference zero. While the other technologies will give you all the points in depth in one go. I'll show you. So let's look more at the modern technology based on the swept source. So look at this. What I'm showing here, this is the modulation of the spectrum. It's done fringe pattern. If you do that fringe pattern along the optical frequency axis, so that is wavelength, your spectrum, which is, let's say, Gaussian envelope, is modulated. Let's say that the distance between those two mirrors is 30 microns. Coherence length 10 microns, 30 microns. If you have 30 microns, that's the way to look. So now, if you take a delta function, a very narrow laser, and you shift it along, you practically transform the spectrum into this time signal. So that is the signal delivered by the photodetector. Let's now say that I move the mirror to 80 microns. So the distance between optical path of object, optical path of reference is 80 microns. When you move the laser in frequency, you only tune it, or sweep its frequency. In time, you will get the signal. So you see, what happens is like different layers in depth are coded in the modulation. The deeper the layer, more peaks in the spectrum. You should get this basic principle. So if you take now tissue, the top tissue will give you a few peaks, the middle tissue will give you more peaks, and one which is very, very much in depth there will give you plenty of peaks. So let's say now that you have here a tissue made from 3 layers: shallow, mid depths, large depths. This one will give you a spectrum with a few peaks. This one a little bit more, and a very dense number of peaks. So because they are all together, investigate. This beam goes to all and returns all this together. I'm only showing you here what individual modulation would be, but the spectrum coming here will have this modulation superposed. They are all superposed. Because I practically send a beam here, another beam here, so whatever comes back will have the modulation of all 3. So they are all there. So the spectrum here looks quite messy. We'll have this modulation superposed with this modulation and superposed on this modulation. However, if you do an FFT, a Fourier transformation of this complex looking signals, you will get 3 peaks. One for, let's say, 5, one for 10, and one for 20. You will get 3 numbers. So in one FFT, you do an FFT, and you get these 3 numbers, telling you that there are 3 layers, 5, 10, and 20 coherence lengths. Is that clear? Let's discuss more about the impact of these principles on the resolutions. What is the depth resolution in the time domain? So it was that 1 inverse of the delta lambda. The larger the spectrum, the better the axial resolution. It's the same here. The bandwidth in the spectrometer base, the same. It's the same formula. But in the tuning laser, which would be the axial resolution is now determined by how wide is the tuning. So when I shift left to right, I have practically to scan the same wide spectrum. So is the tuning bandwidth determining the axial resolution now? What about the range? What about the range? Can I remind you about that coherence length? You will get interference as long as you are within the coherence length. Now, the coherence length has to be manipulated with care here, because in the time domain the coherence length is 5-10 microns. While when you sweep the laser would have miles. So, what determines the maximum delay for which I could still obtain interference? If you use a spectrometer, practically after diffraction, those doing laser experiments, they know that by diffracting light, we practically increase the coherence length of the wave after diffraction. So it's the coherence length after diffraction which counts. And practically the higher the resolution of the spectrometer, the longer is the coherence length of this wave trains after diffraction. So that will determine how long could the optical path difference be in the interferometer to still obtain spectral modulation in the spectrum. With the search source, is practically, we use the same formula for the coherence length, but in this case delta lambda is not wide. It's a laser now. If it has larger than 50 picometers, it's not good for this principle. It has to be narrower than 20 picometers, and that corresponds to a coherence length of a couple of millimeters to centimeters. So the axial range has to be, for OCT, larger than 3.5 millimeters. And you find similar calculations when you do sensing, because OCT is not unique. Throw away this scanner and you go back to a sensor measuring distances, or you like to know what is your axial resolution and up to what distance you can put the reflector to still obtain good signal. So you'll have similar problems here. In telecom, problems are slightly different in terms of the range, because in telecom the boundaries there are not as in OCT. They go into tuning only to gigahertz, and the line is megahertz. So the coherence lengths are much, much longer. So again, this important slide on coherence lengths. So initially, when I have shown it, the coherence length there was that 5 or 10 microns. Now for the swab source, you wanted to have this as long as possible, because you wanted to interrogate layers in depth in tissue, which is 5 millimeters. So here, this coherence length has to be longer. So when you read the paper on, be careful with these definitions. Coherence length in one paper in time domain could mean a few microns, tens of microns. If you go to the modern technology of sweep lasers, could mean centimeters. Okay. So is this delay, which you see it here, how further down can I take this to still have superposition? If I put this here, this will move left, 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 and at some point I won't have any superposition. There will be no wavetrain to be superposed with. So that's the axial range. So what is driving the current OCT is research on optical sources. And broadbands, if you go to Google Super Moscow, Exalos in Switzerland, there are combinations of such sources to make them broader for spectrometer based, and for time domain they need broadband sources. Another largely used source is stem sapphire. We also take fiber to eliminate the pulse structure and use only the boundaries, and ultra broadband are these companies, which in fact there is only one company, because NKT Denmark acquired 2 months ago Fian Southampton. So in one fiber you have light from 400 nanometers to 2,700 nanometers. One fiber. This technology didn't exist 5-10 years ago. In one fiber you put all these colors. So that's the source, the laser being sold by NKT, and has applications in OCT endoscopy instrumentation, especially useful for those people willing to have in one fiber so many wavelengths. And it's interesting to note that this technology has been created in 1999 and OCT in 1991, and they go together now. The supercontinuum lasers with OCT. Example, we work together with a company in Portugal, multi-wave. We wanted to make a broader source, and especially to look at retina. And the longer the wavelengths, less is scattering, so we prefer to go better in the choroid, we like to use longer wavelengths. Okay. The problem is, the longer the wavelengths, we encounter an enemy. What is the enemy? If we increase the wavelengths. If you increase the wavelengths over 1 micrometer, what is the enemy you have to face during optics of the tissue? What is your main enemy? Convincing light to go through tissue, to make the wavelength longer.
It works. It's a good temperature.
Power here don't work anything because it's high. They have to be safe. Okay, yeah, scattering. You still get light. What? Water. Water absorption picks up. So centimeter the other way, you end up with nothing if you use this. So preferably, doing OCT for skin is 1300. Because the longer the wavelength, less is the scattering. But you can't use 1300 in the eye because there will be little left by the time the wave reaches the retina. And researchers have identified this dip at 1060 nanometer, where there is a little dip in the water absorption. And there is a lot of research there to make sources in that wavelength strip. And so if you work here, you have this loss, a couple of dBs. You put more power. So the safety for 800 is about 750 microns, microwatts, 750 microwatts at 840 nanometers. If you work at 1060, close to 2 milliwatts, you can put 2 milliwatts in the ground to compensate for the loss. And that's research. You put together ytterbium doped fiber, neodymium doped fiber, put them together and obtain, for this spectrum, an axial range of 7 microns. So you see, axial range is determined by the source, not by the wavelengths. And with this one, look, comparing the effect of wavelengths, what do you see? So this is an image of a healthy eye. Okay, that's the fovea here, you see what it flares. Look, at 890 nanometers, that's the B-scan. This is B-scan, that's lateral. Here at 1050, what is the difference between this and this? What?
Less resolution.
Well, that's true, but I'm not talking about.
It's more in depth.
More in depth. Look, here the choroid, I lose signal here. Well, here I could go up to so much, only because we increase the wavelengths. Okay, what's also happening? This is a collaboration with NKT and our student went to Professor Zhang at Northwestern and created a customized NKT laser to act as a photoacoustic source. And Professor Lee alluded to optoacoustic yesterday. I don't have to look at that, but I'm only telling you that that's a hot field in research of sources for many applications, including OCT, and this is a system which can be used at the same time for OCT and for photoacoustics. So you can look out for developments into fast tuning sources and so on. I'm only enticing you to it. I don't have time to show what's happening in this fast evolving field like this one. Now I moved to the other source, which is the narrowband source, but tuned within a broadband. So you sweep it, if you wanted to achieve 10 micron, you wanted to tune it within 100 nanometer, which was the equivalent of the broadband, giving you the same axial resolution. So what is here is a ring. So that's a ring fiber. You have an amplifier, so the wave goes inside and a little bit escapes outside. Right? So if you use here a tunable filter, as you tune the filter, you leave only waves of a certain wavelength. So in this way, by applying here a sawtooth, you can tune it. And there is a lot of research around this. And there are some other principles, not necessarily this way, being used by these companies. You can buy tunable lasers from these companies, and there are some others, and you can find them in Premium and other companies, OCT Light, a spin-out from DTU in Denmark, and many other groups are looking into optical sources. So that's one slide only to, you can look up for this principle of ring lasers, mainly developed by colleagues at MIT and in Munich and Lübeck now, Professor Robert. What can you do with technology? You can produce this type of images, for instance, from skin. You have here the stratum corneum, and what you see, these helicoidal ducts are practically the sweat ducts, these helicoidal structures. Water is being expelled from the body via the this helicoidal. And this has been obtained with a Fourier transformation-based subsource system, the modern technology. But an image from skin has been obtained a long time ago by the old time domain, so still similar quality. The only problem here was the time. The time to acquire 40 images was 20 seconds, while to produce that volume was, well, the volumes could be obtained now in half second. Endoscopy, simple optics. So you have a circulator, the light goes this way, comes back and goes to the photodetector, and here there is a reflector on the fiber. So the light going here returns into two formats, one from the fiber end, providing the reference beam, and another one coming from the larynx. So the interference, the spectrum, is being looked with a photodetector when you tune the laser. So that's the isolator in between 5 volts power supply that goes into the body. So you can see here how we exercise to put it together with a Karl Storz fiber bundle, and that's the OCT probe, which was only 1.9 millimeter diameter, terminated at the end with a magnetic scanner. And you see more about the size here. The probe has been produced by colleagues at Nizhny Novgorod in Russia, and we exercised on a latex phantom how to navigate the orifices and the trajectory here. And these are dual images obtained. This is unphased image from the Karl Storz, a bundle looking unphased. And these are cross sections now. This scan, depth, lateral. This is open access, so you can go find these papers in Optics Express, Biomedical Optics Express. We wanted to do more than equip the clinic with a system for the larynx. We have here a switch, and to make an economic system, switching between the probe going inside and the handheld probe. And this is the team. The collaboration is Institute of Applied Physics in Nizhny Novgorod. They made that time probe. And these are the clinicians of Northwick Park Hospital now. More about scanning. You need the scanner to do an OCT. So you have the fiber going inside the body, but now the problem inside the body, the scanner has to be really, really tight. And there are all sorts of directions here. One possible direction is that of a total internal reflection prism here, so light comes here and is reflected. So now if you rotate this, you obtain a disc like in the ultrasound inside the vessel. There is a trend in now taking the technology outside the lab, so we work a lot on handheld devices, and they are good for anterior chamber, for skin, for mouse. And that was one of the first we did from a 1 pound shop. And then technology evolved towards collaborating with DTU. They do 3D printers, printing of this with sophisticated 3D printing machines to generate these cases for different scans. And with colleagues here in Romania, in Arad, we have I'll recommend at the end for you if you wanted to hear more about the technology. That is OCT News, maintained by the inventors at MIT of the OCT. If you Google OCT News, we have there this feature of the week, or his colleagues from Arad in Romania. We have shown that you can build a handheld very, very low cost. All these components which you see here are bought from catalogs. So if you take this, you assemble it, and you have a handheld probe, which you join that to an interferometer. So if you go to OCT News and you look for features of the week, you find all sorts of novelties being reported by the OCT News from all over the world. We have two features of the week in that. One is about this low cost, and there's another one I'm going to life sciences microscopy is also important, and that is a system where we looked at Drosophila flies. And what you see here is a very tiny image. It's a dual representation like the OCT SLO. Where the SLO here is the confocal microscope. You see here 4 ostia cells in the heart of Drosophila. And the Drosophila beats. Okay? And what you hear as noise is like you have an optical stethoscope giving you the heart pulsation. Okay? So with our colleagues in the School of Biosciences, here, Dr. Jim Gore and Ishama, and postdoctoral researcher Adrian Podoleanu, who has assembled the OCT and the stethoscope, we looked at what would happen with these signals from the optical stethoscope if you what happened? If you modify the strands genetically. So by modifying them, see, these are the types. The sound will come from this signal. So by investigating this Doppler shift, you can practically identify the genetic alterations. Okay, now there was a mismatch of slides here. Another interesting and easy to do setup is this. Speckle. Speckle is destroying the clarity of sharpness in the image. And Michael Hughes, one who was a PhD in our group, we came with the idea of this simple modification of the scanning head, where if you move together the fiber of the lens and the galvo scan laterally in front of the fixed lens, you will have a B-scan this way and the B-scan this way. So angularly you can collect B-scans at different angles. And in this way, we demonstrate here there are many directions where people try to reduce the speckle. Look at the image. This is an image from a tooth. See, there is speckle inside. You can barely see features inside the tooth here. So the scale here is 1 millimeter. Okay. So not more penetration than 0.7 millimeters in the tooth. Fine. But the image is speckled, has these dots. If you take 40 of these and you average, you still didn't improve much. So that's 40 averages of similar images. However, if you use that scanning head, look here, beautiful image. The image is much clearer by using these 40 B-scans collected at different tiny angle of moving the scanning head above the scale. So that was another one. Now, technologies, this is the modern technology, but it has some disadvantages, and our research should go into alleviating these problems. And I'm listing here problems for you to understand. When you see an image, why that image is that way? Where does it come from? Why is not in the exact way you would have liked it? So let me list here some problems with the current technology which you will face if you read papers. One is the visibility decay with depth, and that is due to the limited coherence length. For instance, if you take this layer with these modulations, we do the FFT, practically this modulation comes from delayed wavelengths. So if you delay it by, let's say that you have a layer here, so this wave will be delayed in comparison with this, and that delay will be longer than the coherence length, because the superposition of the wavelengths is less. You have less strength. So as you go in depth, the technology has this disadvantage. The sensitivity goes down. And with the time domain, the old technology, the sensitivity didn't go down. You could have had a mirror at 1 mile. You put the object at 1 mile. You work around optical path difference 0, but you can practically address any distances, and the sensitivity is still the same. While here, the sensitivity goes down with depth. So that's one. And more here, showing you the modulation. How the modulation, you see, that's for an optical path difference between the two distances, between the two mirrors. So 1.1 millimeters. If I increase it to 1.6 millimeters, the strength is less. So this decay in the strength comes from the coherence length. It's like you have those two wavetrains, so OPD equals 0, they are totally superposed, and now I delay one in relation to the other. When I reach this point, there's no superposition, no interference. So that's one. Another disadvantage is this one. In time domain, you work at OPD equals 0. You can put the focus there. You go in depth to another scattering center. You can move the focus. You cannot do that with the spectral domain, because in spectral domain, all those modulations are collected at once. They all come at once, and that given focus. So you cannot say, I wanted now to separate with the focus in between shallow layer and deep layer. There's no way to do it. And we call that in time domain dynamic focus, in the fact that you can superpose the focus gate with the coherence gate. So in time domain you can do that, we call it dynamic focus, and that's a paper we published on dynamic focus showing that you can have a simple setup. You can go to this paper and see how it works. It's a simple setup where when you move the translation state, you scan mechanically the optical path difference. At the same time, you also scan the focus. It was an interesting idea. And Gabor, we published 2, and we have another one coming now on Gabor filtering. Gabor filtering refers to a kernel, the node, the central mass in an integral. So you can have that filtering, which you can apply to any spectral domain or Fourier domain interferometer, and you repeat the collection and you move the Gabor filter. So that's what the Gabor selection depth refers to. So here we move the focus using a deformable mirror, like that one used in adaptive optics. And here we did some more sophisticated technology called Talbot bands. Let me show you the effect on a phantom. A phantom made from 10 glass slides put together. So if you do a cross section, you expect to have all these layers in depth up to here. But if the focus is only here, in the B-scan, you'll get only those contributing sufficient strength. Now, if I move the focus down, you see more from these layers. If I moved it even more down, you see more. Now, you can also see that as I moved it, I didn't want to make it wider. But what happens because of the scattering, your profile here is not as narrow as, so if you use a mirror practically at any distance here, this profile will actually be the same width. But here, look at the envelope. You see, this envelope extends. So in fact, we move the focus here, but it's like the confocal gate is much wider. So you see the effect of multiple scattering. So Gabor filtering means that you take the brightest part of this scan, the brightest part of this scan, the brightest part of this scan, and you fuse them together and you obtain this scan. That's Gabor filtering. It slows down the phenomenon because you have to repeat, but you address this problem that OCT may have an axial range of 1 centimeter, and if you wanted to achieve good transversal resolution, you reduce the focal length of the lens, you increase the capabilities of focusing, and that deprives you from the axial range, because if you make the focal length too short, this becomes too narrow, and it's so narrow that it's less than the axial range. So what do? The OCT will give you 1 centimeter, but the focus collects only 1 millimeter in depth, so you have to shift it. And you apply Gabor filtering. So Chris Costa just obtained his PhD. He did this Gabor filtering, and you see there only one image with one focus. I repeated the distance with the other focus positions. So put together, you have nice helicoidal ducts being seen from the finger. More on that, on a handheld system, we are working on that now. I will go quicker from now on because I run out of time. We use here a tiny translation stage, shown here to move this lens, and again the phantom, how we move the focus for Gabor filtering, and more on the focus capabilities is this technology which you may see, combination of OCT with adaptive optics. Why? OCT addresses the problem of axial resolution, while in the eye, as we open the eye opening, the eye is more and more aberrated and the transversal resolution suffers. So even if I increase the 7 millimeter, the resolution is not going to go down to predicted theoretical values of 3 to 4 micron unless you use adaptive optics to compensate for the aberrations. And what you need for that, you need a wavefront sensor. And the wavefront sensor is built from a lenslet array in front of a camera. It's called Clark-Harman wavefront sensor. And if you send a collimated perfect ray to the sensor, you see that all focus points fall behind the lenslet array on a regular grid. If now the wavefront is distorted, these spots will move, and from their movement you can infer how much this spot moved to the right or up, and that is probably determining the slope. From that slope you infer the deviation in the wavefront, and if you know that deviation, you can now apply that type of correction to a deformable mirror to compensate for this distortion. So, for instance, this is the way the wavefront will look from my eye, with all these aberrations being quantified here by the sensor. You close the loop in a configuration like this, and you can look at photoreceptors. So now, this size is very small, and what you see here, these are photoreceptors in the eye. That's the SLO image, and that's the alpha-associative image. That was more than 10 years ago.